I think One Nation's been the only consistent political party for the last 20 years.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Ray. Welcome to another episode of the New South Wales One Nation TV. Today I am joined with Rebecca Thompson, who is running for the seat of the electorate of Hume. I'm super excited to have her here. She's a fantastic lady with some fantastic ideas. Thank you so much for joining me, Rebecca.
Hi, Evelyn. Thanks for having me.
Now, you obviously haven't always been in politics. This is something fairly new, I'm guessing, to yourself. And I would love to hear, before we get into the nitty-gritty parts of politics and policy and things like that, I'd love to hear a little bit about who you are as a person, what led you to this particular point in your life that made you decide to join politics.
Okay, so I grew up in Western Sydney, single-parent family. After I left high school, I went and studied for 2.5 years at TAFE and joined the workforce at 18. So from there, I was just doing admin roles and office work. After that, I did some temp positions for government departments, federal and state, but I've always been customer service based. So dealing with the public, either face-to-face or over the phone. That's something I'm very passionate about, is just dealing with the people. And for me, doing that, it's allowed me to get to know where the breakdown is between the people out there and the government processes and the policies that are in place. So that's given me a good understanding of where the disconnect is between government and just the everyday person. I also have 2 children, and after that, I've continued on in government work, where I've been full-time for the last 12.5 years, doing the same thing, just customer service-based, assisting. I've done outreach work where we're out in the public, meeting people face-to-face. A lot of those people are vulnerable. I've also assisted with processes for our First Nations people to make dealing with government departments easier. And I'm currently on leave from that role due to the birth of my second child, which I had in December last year.
I feel like customer service is a very challenging job, and it's often like overlooked as something small, but it's challenging when you need to sort of make everybody happy and try and work for the best of all different types of people. I experienced that in my previous job, and it was very challenging. So hats off that you've been doing it for such a long time. I imagine it would take years off your life. Some days you would feel like that anyway. But would you say that that was sort of part of your motivation for becoming a candidate for One Nation? You, I guess, wanted to sort of speak for the people. Can you sort of help me understand like what you kind of want to achieve if you were elected into your position in Hume?
Yes, okay. So yes, my passion for people and just seeing day to day the issues that there are between people trying to work within a system that doesn't necessarily work for them, if that makes sense. But I feel personally, just as an Australian, the last couple of years especially, I feel like we've been going backwards in Australia. The cost of living, just going about your day-to-day lives, getting to work, raising a family, trying to save for a house. Someone in my age category, that's the target that we're working to achieve, is to buy a house. From my experience working, it was I was driving to and from my office each day. That was anywhere between 3 to 3.5 hour commute by car, return trip. Because I'm rather rural, our public transport service isn't the best, so driving is the best option. But obviously once COVID hit, we were all working from home, and I worked out at that point that I was actually paying $900 a month just to go to my office job and work. Wow. So factoring the costs of fuel, tolls, parking, and that was all just to actually get to my place of work to start working. And then that's not factoring the income tax that comes off, cost of utility bills, food, expenses for the children. There's very little left over at the end to try and save for a deposit. So that was something that was irking me for quite a while prior to even running or thinking of running. But what's actually pushed me to the point of running as a candidate is just the things that have unfolded, especially in the last 12 months. It's just we're in a time that I didn't think I would ever experience in Australia. And we're in a place where there's a lot of despair. People are struggling, job loss, mandates, having a government dictate to people what they can and cannot do with their own body is something that is just honestly beyond comprehension for me.
Yeah.
And the fact that people can literally be locked out of society for making a personal choice, that's just not a path I want to continue walking down. And it's especially not a path that I want my children walking down in the future. So that's why I'm here today.
Yeah. And I think many Australians are feeling the exact thing that you are feeling. You know, we've kind of had enough, and you hit the nail on the head. Cost of living is ridiculous. I look at my parents' generation, they were able to buy houses for $30,000 in Sydney. And then you fast forward to our generation and we're looking $1 million plus to just buy a basic home in Sydney. And then you look at our kids and you think, what are they going to be capable of achieving? But, you know, when it comes their turn to make those steps in life. So, you know, I love that you're passionate about these things, because many Australians are passionate about the exact same things. But what I wanted to ask you is, what drew you, what led you to One Nation in particular? Because there are a lot of political parties out there, and I'm curious to see what it was about One Nation that attracted you.
Okay, so for me, I think One Nation's been the only consistent political party for the last 20 years. Pauline Hanson has stuck to her guns. She's spoken for many times for just everyday Australians. You hear her speak in interviews on the radio, on television, and you're just thinking, wow, she is like bang on. But I haven't heard anybody else describing things the way that she does. So for me, she's been there for the people from day one, even when, you know, the going's gotten tough for her and it hasn't been an easy ride. She's always stayed true to her beliefs and her values. And over the last 18 months, especially out on the street, who is it? It's Pauline Hanson and Malcolm Roberts, and obviously Mark Latham as well, for the state of New South Wales. They're out there, they're with the people, they're listening. And for me, that's just, it's the consistency. Yeah. Also just that they're not polished politicians. They're just everyday people that want what's best for the country and for Australians. For me as well, like looking at the policy side of things, family law is something that I'm very passionate about. It's something that's very close to my heart as well. And I was actually lucky enough back in 2017 to be invited down to Parliament to meet with Pauline Hanson and discuss my issues as an advocate for family law, along with a few other people. We were there to meet with her and discuss the issues that we were experiencing or had experienced. And we spent a good 2.5 hours there just chatting with her, and that is what sparked the inquiry into family law that happened in 2019. So she is the real deal, and that's why it's One Nation for me.
Yeah, and you know, I wanted to actually go into sort of the policies that you would want to sort of push if you were elected into the position, into the seat of Hume. But just while you sort of touched on Pauline Hanson and that family law reform, for people who might not know what that actually is, are you able to sort of explain that a little bit further?
Yeah, okay. So family law, it's a system that's been broken for a very, very long time. My dad went through the system. That was over 30 years ago. So I'm actually getting emails from constituents already that are going through family law and child support issues. They are in crisis. They are begging for assistance. They cannot see their children. They are going through courts. It's costing them hundreds and thousands of dollars. Some men can't even afford it, so they just give up. The statistics show it's at least 21 men a week, fathers, that take their lives due to family law, broken family law system, or child support issues. So just the fact that I've openly come out and said that I'm for a reform has sparked constituents, majority men, to contact me with their stories. So basically what's happening now is Pauline recognised there was an issue quite a few years ago and wanted an inquiry into family law. Liberals voted against it. Labor voted against it, the Greens voted against it, and Darren Hinch voted against it, and many other independents. But she stood to her guns and made it happen. So basically, we were invited down to speak to her about our issues so she could get an understanding. I believe it affects her personally in her life as well, the family law system. And then come 2019, there was an inquiry held where there was many people that attended to speak. Pauline Hanson was on the panel, along with I think it was another Labor MP. There was parties that went down there, like fathers, advocates, non-custodial parents, advocate parties, support groups to give evidence. And basically what came from that is that 60 recommendations of what needs to be changed in the system in order to provide a more fair and non-biased system with the child's best interest at heart, which is fantastic. But recommendations are simply that we actually need to start making moves with those recommendations and implementing them immediately.
It's incredible stuff. I've seen the bias with my own experience as well. And there are many other people, I'm sure, like yourself, who have lived it and who understand it. And it's very sad, unfortunately. And the statistics you mentioned about suicide, 21, that's outrageous. And that's a conversation we all need to be at least having because it's important. And obviously it's an issue that we need to be aware of so we can correct, we can amend, we can fix. So I love that you are passionate about these things. I guarantee there are so many Australians who are going to hear this and be like, oh, thank goodness someone gets it. Someone's hearing me. And so that's amazing. Now, if you were to be elected to Hume, now that I'm not particularly familiar with the demographic of that location, the sort of issues in particular with the Hume electorate. Are you able to sort of talk about things that you've identified that you would like to, I guess, amend or fix in that particular area and how you would do that if you were elected into that seat?
Yeah, so just to give you an understanding of the Hume electorate, it's a mixed bag. So our electorate goes all the way out to Crookwell, past Goulburn, which is very rural towns, beautiful. And then we go down towards Narellan and some parts of Mount Annan, which are more of an estate-based, so more of a suburban type demographic there. But one of the biggest issues that we have out here is road infrastructure. So we've got the Hume Highway, which is our main route to Sydney. It's what I used to use to get to my office, and also the M7. But those roads are not up to scratch, and we have a lot of families coming out this way. We've got many, many new estates being built, and the roads and the infrastructure to accommodate those new families plus who's already here are just so far from what's acceptable. We've also got, like closer to where I live, we're seeing more and more people coming into the area, as well as it being used. It's a town that's at Picton. It's being used for people to get through many different suburbs. And there's an old bridge. It's a heritage listed bridge, which is used as one of the main routes to get around the town and through the town, which more often than not is closed for roadworks repairs. We have issues with oversized vehicles using it and damaging the bridge, and then it's closed. So the community is crying out for a bypass. The government knows about this. Our current sitting member knows about this. And the community has been crying out for it for years and years. And with the flooding and everything that's impacting our areas at the moment, we're seeing now that we need it more than ever. So if I was elected, that would definitely be something I'd be putting forward as a priority. As well as we also have another major road known as Appin Road. It is extremely dangerous road. The government, again, knows about it. I believe there's been over 41 fatalities on that road since 1996. And it's just a well-known road that's dangerous, and something needs to... There was an accident only a couple of days ago where a man was hit walking along the side of the road. So we really need to do something about that. It's a major road for us to commute through to different parts of the electorate. So that also needs to be a priority and something I would be looking at if I was elected.
Mm. Now, when I sort of asked you at the beginning of this interview about what got you into politics and sort of what drew you here, you mentioned quite a lot about the discrimination and the mandates and loss of job and employment and things through the last sort of 2 years with COVID and that. Are you able to sort of let us know your thoughts on all of that and what you want to do if you're elected, I guess, moving past the pandemic, and what you sort of want to put in place, I guess, to see us through that particular period?
Yes, so my thoughts on the pandemic specifically. We know that so many Australians have been crushed. We know that small business is hanging on by a thread if they're still open. It's not just the discrimination of a vaccine mandate and a vaccine certificate passport system. It's what small businesses have already gone through just to get through the pandemic. They now need to pick and choose who they're allowing into their business. To me, it's completely unacceptable. I mean, if you would like to go and get the vaccine because you feel that it's good for you, or you're going to feel safe, then I 100% support that. That's your right and your choice. But if somebody would like to wait for further research, for further data to come out, because many people may not be aware it is under emergency use only, and clinical trials don't finish till the end of next year. So if somebody wants to wait and find out more about that and choose to hold out, then that's their choice and their right as well. Because if they're to go ahead and do it and it doesn't go to plan, who's there to support them? So for me, I just think it's a pro-choice decision. Never in my life have I been heckled about whether I've had a flu shot, whether I took a whooping shot, anything ever before. And all of a sudden it's now you are basically just cut out of society if you choose to make a personal medical decision. So I'm just honestly dumbfounded that we're in this situation, especially in 2022, when for years we've been working very hard to be inclusive of all different people with all different opinions and backgrounds. And here we are now intentionally creating a divide in society. I just don't think it's right. If I was to be put into the seat of Hume, I would 100% support One Nation's no mandatory vaccine bill, which Pauline's already tried to put through Parliament and been rejected by Liberal and Labor. And I also support Pauline's Royal Commission into the handling of the pandemic also.
There's certainly things that I feel many Australians want. We want a Royal Commission into the handling of all of this. And you mentioned previously, just before, about division and how it's been such a divisive 2 years. I would say all the way back to 2020. That's when we started to see the division. Now, have you seen this amongst your local community? Like, have you seen the division? Have you seen the impact on human beings, on people in that particular area?
Absolutely. I've seen people be told they're not welcome to attend family gatherings. I've seen I know of people that have been asked to take rapid antigen tests or PCR tests prior to attending family events if they're unvaccinated. It's just honestly beyond comprehension for me that we're in this situation where you've got family members turning against each other, friends turning against each other. Like, it's such a trivial issue that people are cutting off family and friends. I've heard in the community that young teenagers are being asked to leave their home because they don't want to be vaccinated and their parents want them to be vaccinated. I don't know on what planet any parent would ever have their child kicked out of home because they choose not to take an injection.
It's heartbreaking.
I know for me personally, there's certainly not something that I would be losing my children over.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like there's such a lack of common sense and common decency at the moment. And I do feel like there is such a pandemic of fear, and it would almost outweigh the pandemic of the actual virus at this point in time. But look, I would love to hear more about other things you're passionate about. You've mentioned family law reform. You've mentioned, ending the mandates. Is there anything else you sort of wanted to add that you particularly feel passionate about and that you want to see implemented in your community?
Yes, so another policy that I'm strong about is affordable cost of living, which I think we've touched on already. But when I talk about that, it's not just being able to own your home, own a dream home, or have a nice car, or that sort of thing. I'm also just talking about very basic needs and essentials for Australian people. So one thing that I'm very strong and passionate about is ending food poverty. So I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't be aware, but the statistics show that 1 in 6 Australians go without a meal at least once a week, or if not, 72% of those people will skip a meal each week for an entire day they won't eat. So 2.6 million Australian children are living in severe food insecure homes, which means that they're going at minimum a week, an entire day without food. To me, that's unacceptable. In Australia, we're a first world country where we're so dedicated to sending assistance overseas for countries that can't feed themselves, don't have access to food and basic necessities. But in our own backyard, we've got, 2.5 million children that don't eat. That's just unacceptable. I'm supportive of us providing aid overseas and where it's needed, but we can't be doing that when it's happening in our own backyard. So the people that I'm speaking of, they're everyday Australians as well. We've got young families, working families, our pensioners and retirees, and also we've got our First Nations people out in regional Australia. They're some of the demographics that are coming up with food poverty at the moment. So for me, that's something I just can't understand in this country, when we can provide millions and millions of vaccines, and that's a priority to have everybody with a vaccine, but it's not a priority to ensure that we've got everyday Australians with food in their cupboards and children going off to school with food in their lunchbox.
Yeah, that's shocking. I had no idea that the statistics were so bad. I mean, we all know it's there. It's the elephant in the room. But like you said, it feels at times like there is a lot more attention given elsewhere overseas, and like you, I don't disagree with helping other people. You'd have to be a sociopath to not want to help people, but at the cost or at the expense of Australians, you're right. I don't know why we're not talking about this more. 2.6 million, like, wow, I'm still in shock about those numbers, and especially that children are suffering. So I love that you sort of are passionate about that, and that you do put Australians first, which is something that we desperately need right now and many Australians are looking for. Now, where can people find you, Rebecca? I absolutely love, what you're doing, what you stand for. And I guarantee you so many people that are going to be listening to this will feel exactly the same. And if they have any questions further for you, is there somewhere they can reach out and talk to you, find more out about policies that you might be implementing?
Yes, certainly. So I can be contacted on Facebook, or there's a link for me to be emailed directly through Facebook. Otherwise, I have a direct email address. I'm happy to give that out. But facebook.com/Rebecca Thompson .phon. So Pauline Hanson'S One Nation. That's my link to Facebook. Otherwise, my email address is hume@newsouthwales.onenation.org.au.
Amazing. And are you happy for people to reach out if they have any questions? Are you going to be, doing any campaign events, like where people can come and meet you in person? If you could just, give us a bit of a strategy, that'd be great.
Yes, certainly. So this upcoming weekend, I'll be at the Golden Show. I'll be there Saturday and Sunday all day. So we'll have a little tent set up. So it won't be easy. It will be easy to not miss. We'll be bright orange, so you can come over and introduce yourself and have a chat with me. I'd be happy to meet everybody. I also have an event coming up on the 13th of March. It's a charity walk that has been celebrating its 30th year anniversary at Mount Annan Botanical Gardens. So the location is an even split between my electorate of Hume and the electorate of Macarthur, which another candidate for One Nation, Adam Zahara, he will be there as well. So we're going to do as a group thing there. And then further down the track, I'll be doing some other local events at Camden. We've got the Camden show coming up in April. And also I'll be travelling up to Bathurst as well to meet with another candidate who borders onto my other side, which is Stacey Whittaker. She's the candidate for One Nation for Clare. We'll be going up there, I think, end of April. But yeah, I'll be keeping everyone updated via social media where I'll be and where they can meet me.
Amazing. Well, it was absolutely lovely to meet you and speak with you, Rebecca. And I love what you stand for. I love your policies. I hope people get behind you. I hope people go and reach out if they have any questions. And yeah, I really appreciate your time today.
That's okay, no problem. Thanks again for having me. It was nice to meet you, Evelyn.